mentioned, is 25 foot deep here, and it tops off the horseshoe pattern of where we're headed to. Before we leave here from completely, looking on the left side of the boat is the original side of Old San Antonio, the main plaza. If you gaze up the steps across the plaza, you'll catch a glimpse of the first significant building constructed in the city in 1738. Right up the steps up there on the left side. San Fernando Cathedral still standing, 1738. Safety guidelines, please note tobacco products, please no vaping, can remain seated during the course of the tour. Be mindful, please, of your hands and your arms and your elbows along the way. And do feel encouraged, feel free, please, with questions at any given time. So y'all didn't want the guided narrated tour, right? Or did you want the guided narrated tour? 10-4, let's begin. Looking up Rivers to Houston Street Bridge, beyond that way is known as the North Channel. The city of San Antonio to this very day is susceptible to flash flooding. Sometimes when the heavy rains do fall, potential floodwaters of the North Channel, they work their way down here towards the horseshoe pattern, lapping at street bridges as they flow, posing devastating effects. Now, what I'm about to speak of is no longer our primary flood control system, but it has become our secondary flood control system. On the right side of the boat, right there is floodgate number 3. It comes down to the water. Now, that's the entrance to the horseshoe pattern, the natural bed of the San Antonio River. And on the other side of the horseshoe to my right is a floodgate 4, and it comes up out of the water. This ideal bottlenecks and protects the water in the area of the horseshoe pattern within itself. On the right is the man-made channel, 25 foot high. Further south from us to my right is the floodgate 5 on the other side of the man-made channel, also 25 foot high. So after the activations of floodgates 3 and 4, to activate floodgate 5, balloon it out completely, and all potential floodwaters will bypass the horseshoe pattern altogether and flow to the south end of the city. They store into a tri-level underground man-made aquifer, storing for emergency city water use. And the waters that do not store flow to the Gulf of Mexico via the Guadalupe River. But this is no longer our primary flood control system. Our now primary flood control system is located about 2 miles.
Gave you the best looking captain on the river today.
Thanks, Uncle. But our now underground flood grounds, our now primary flood control system is located about 2 miles east from us here, and it runs about 2 miles north to south. It's an underground tunnel completed in 1998, and it works perfectly all by itself. It does. So far, so good. On the left side, we just come into the horseshoe pattern, by the way, natural bend of the San Antonio River going to flow. The river depth now shores up to anywhere from 3 to 10 foot deep. On the left side, this building was completed in 1921. Into the mid-1950s, it's known as the CPS building. From the mid-50s to the mid-70s, it's known as the Commerce Bank building. The late 70s, the building was vacated and vacant until 1999. This is when the jewelry and the sweets people came out this way. They purchased the building, cleaned it up, and presented it there as we see it now. Restoration and renovation is the name of the game in regards to the buildings in the downtown area from the 1920s. Coming through floodgate 3 brought us into the second half of the horseshoe pattern going to flow. Coming up with the bridge here, look on the right side of the boat and you'll see the Aztec Theater. It is very detailed on the inside, not so much so on the outside. In fact, the building that we'll see here on the right side of the boat is only one of 2 silent movie houses ever built in San Antonio, Texas, 1926. The building came replete with a fancy Wurlitzer organ stationed off to the side of the screen that a human being would sit and play in tandem with the run of the silent films, so as to provide sound effects for the run of the silent films. The building here on the right has been renovated to some extent. They operate today full-time as a multi-music venue, Aztec Theater, 1926. Notice the building next to the Aztec Theater, that was once the site of the L. Frank Saddlery Company. They used to supply saddles for the likes of Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders, Pancho Villa and his Revolutionaries, the French, the British, and the American forces during World War I. From 1901 to 1923, they occupied the site. What's here today is known as the Mocara Hotel and Spa. On the left side, friends, this is La Mansion Omni, constructed in 1852, and in 1853 was known as St. Mary's Institute, a school started by 4 brothers of the Society of Mary. In 1927, it was known as the San Antonio Law School. In 1966, the law school was relocated to a newly completed complex upon the present-day site of St. Mary's University campus today, thus rendering instructional left vacant. A graduate of St. Mary's returned to the area and purchased the building. He adds a 6-story addition overlooking the river where we are now, and internally the building does incorporate graceful Spanish arches and columns, cloistered courtyards, plus the romantic interiors are accented with the antiques of Colonial, Mexico, and Spain. La Mansion Omni, 1968 today. Are y'all enjoying yourselves in the city? All right. How about the rest, y'all? All right. Coming up the bridge, look skyward to the left, and you see a two-dimensional optical illusion. It's actually a three-dimensional structure. But you got to look skyward to the left, out underneath the bridge. This wall is considered to be one of the finest colorful terracotta walls this side of the Southwest. That is the Nix Hospital building up there, constructed in 1930. Still home to the hospital today, known as the Nix. You know, if you ever may be interested in chartering a Rail San Antonio cruiser for your private event, we can be contacted at railsanantonio.com. This contact information is located right upon your ticket stub, railsanantonio.com, or like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We are at your service, and we would love to hear from you. Looking to the very forefront of the boat up there is the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Notice the fact that building before us up there is not very tall. You know why? Because located on the other side of that structure is Texas's Shrine to Liberty, the Alamo. The building before us is any higher than it does appear. It would cast a shadow right upon Texas's Shrine to Liberty. Did you know that to this very day, there are no independently located structures out here in the downtown San Antonio, Texas area that ever could possibly cast a shadow upon Texas's Shrine to Liberty? Since 1836, remember the Alamo. Coming up, meet the bridge, look to the forefront right side of the boat at street level, and you will see the Casino Club building, another building from the 1920s built alongside the river. Forefront right side of street level off underneath the bridge. Notice, if you can, how the bricks of the structure up there get lighter from the bottom to the top, all the way around the building, right on up to the multi-tiered gold dome setting. It doesn't look like anything else in the city. In 1927, that building was known as the German Casino Club. Today, the Casino Club building is an apartment complex with a 5-year waiting list, they say, Art Deco. You know, for years there was nothing but delivery docks, garbage containers, parking spaces, and plain backs of walls just facing the water of the river. Enter one Robert H. Hugman, a native San Antonian returning to San Antonio in 1928 after studying architecture. This was a few years after the worst of some very serious flooding, which occurred in 1921, and people were sincerely talking about paving over the natural bed of the San Antonio River here, as it does meander its way to the heart of the city. Well, young Mr. Hugman, he too poses the idea of paving over any part of the water. Thus, this also adds his voice to those attempting to preserve the area. Upon his own initiative, Mr. Hugman did design a master plan for the river that included buildings, bridges, walks, benches, lights, and waterway features that combined old world charm with the natural beauty of the area itself. He personally designed every single detail of the plan, from the pattern in the sidewalk to a gadget that changed the light bulbs and the light fixtures. Mr. Hugman did envision development that does include everything we see here, this fine Texan-American San Antonio today. Stores, restaurants, and apartments, alive with people and activities, a landscaped area that was a world apart just a flight below, busy downtown city streets. Drawn forward, looking to the forefront right side of the boat there upon the Cliffy building, is the historic downtown riverfront office of Robert H. Hugman, architect. This whole entire area may never ever have had existed as it does appear, had it been for the return of the native San Antonio to San Antonio in 1928. Robert Harold Harvey Hugman, often referred to as the father of the Riverwalk, because he often fondly referred to the river as his baby. Hence the nickname Father of the Riverwalk. That's his bust on the hard right side. Then on the right, once again, is Casa Rio. This is the very first restaurant on the river right here, 1946. They still make up and serve a great tasting tomato, serrano pepper, onion, and cilantro salsa here. It is delicious as it is nutritious, and I am not being facetious. Yeah, we're going to take a left turn now off the natural bend of the river and enter to what is known as the man-made extension. This area we're about to enter into now was excavated from street level back in 66, 68 and is 3 foot deep upon entering throughout. We're going to leave the natural bend of the San Antonio River entirely and enter the man-made extension. Tequila! Now we're into what's known as, now reflected upon this river before us, we started the year 1929. You see, 1929, San Antonio was caught up in the midst of a major building boom. Later that year, 1929, the U.S. stock market suddenly crashed, and the building boom in downtown San Antonio come to an abrupt halt. The downtown area would not fully recover for nearly 40 years. The first step to move the downtown area towards recovery started out as an idea that began to formalize in 1958. The solution would be an international exposition. The event would become known as Hemisphere, a play on words from the original title of the event, which was Hemisphere World's Fair. San Antonio here was planning to host the Americas, Mexico, Canada, and all other countries to share this side of the globe with San Antonio exclusively. And Hemisphere was planned to kick off April 1968. So from 1958 until 1968, the downtown area's revived candy spirit stayed the course and succeeded in accomplishing a goal that brought international attention to San Antonio and an estimated 7 million people visiting the Alamo City during a year that the Alamo City here was also celebrating its 250th anniversary as a city. 1968, yes, the finished fairgrounds, completed man-made extension, as well as the adjoining convention center extension, and a slew of new hotels and restaurants opening up throughout the city of San Antonio suddenly provided everything needed for a successful San Antonio tourist and convention destination. Hemisphere puts San Antonio on the national as well as international destination map. It does. Any questions? I only have so many answers. You see before us 2 iron footbridges. We're going to take the one on the right. Coming up at the one on the right, look to the forefront right side of the boat up there, and you see a giant spar jutting up into the sky to the forefront right side. Let's see. There it is. That is the Tower of the Americas up there. That's more than 600 feet up into the air, constructed in 1968. The bottom level is a rotating restaurant that does a 360 in an hour's time. The top level is a non-rotating outdoor observation deck, offering views up to 16 miles around as the restaurant does rotate. Truly a fantastic way to see the 7th largest city in the United States, 2nd largest city in the state of Texas. This is all area-wise. San Antonio spans a range of 424 square miles in south central Texas, rounding up to the edge of the Texas Hill Country and rounding down to the Gulf Central Plains. Our population is 1.5 million people. As far as the largest cities in the state of Texas are concerned as land-wise, it's Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas in that order, but Houston leading the way. We surpassed Dallas about 10 years ago or so. Land-wise, we did.